Welcome back to the Domestique Hotseat podcast, and thank you for tuning in again. We have another corker for you. We've got Simon Geschke on the line today, and I just wanted to say we had a few comments over the last couple of interviews about how people are really liking the guests that we're getting on, and we really appreciate that. Some people asked, how do you get them on? And it's a lot through you guys and through the hype that is building around the pod. So if you are appreciating the pod, please give it a like, chuck in a comment about who you'd like to see. And of course, if you can share it on, it helps us grow. And the more we grow, the more likely we are to get the people on that you want to hear from. So without further ado, Simon Geschke. Okay, so Simon, I've only ever heard your name pronounced by Australians, and we are notoriously bad at pronouncing any surname that is not English. Is it Geschke or Geschke?
Geschke, yeah.
Done.
That's pretty accurate. Yeah.
Happy days.
Easy.
So when I started this podcast, being a pro cyclist has been such a romantic thing in my head, I guess. So when I started this, all I wanted to ask people was what's it like being a pro cyclist? What's it like? Expecting some really romanticized kind of response. But with every interview that I do, I feel that the question should more be, what made you come back to pro cycling every year for 16 years? Because it is such a demanding, such a challenging sport that asks so much and, to be frank, gives relatively little compared to other sports. What is it that made you return to it each year?
It's I think a big mix of, the expectations you have every year. You work for it for your whole life, basically, your whole adult life. I mean, I started cycling when I was, road cycling. I started when I was 15, so pretty late. But I started cycling when I was 12 years old, competitive. I did my first races then. And once you made it to become a pro, you don't just walk away after a few years, or you don't want to. I mean, at least I didn't want to, and most of the other riders, I guess, are just the same. So you go back every year and you try to make the best out of every year. And what makes it easier also, I mean, it is a nice lifestyle. It has a lot of positive things also. I mean, you can make a living, it's, of course you have not the same attention, like, I don't know, what players in the NBA or in Europe. Soccer is the biggest sport and so on. But it has a lot of positive things to it, and that makes you come back every year, and you forget the negative sides of it very quickly. It's best example is the Tour de France. Everyone hates it when you are there. The first week is just super stressful, and the mountain stages later on, you get tired, and you don't want to see other riders anymore, and then all the whole circus that comes with it. And then in the winter, once you have your off season, and then the team, you get together with the team, you speak about the next season. I want to go to the Tour again.
Yeah.
So it is like that every year, with cycling as well. But to be honest, it's also what kept motivating me is that I knew I cannot do it forever. So it's actually just a short amount of time that you have. If you're very good years, when you're lucky, you have 15 years maybe in pro cycling, more or less. And and then that's it. So you can have a relative normal life after.
Yeah. We'll get to what I guess a normal life looks like for you in a little bit, because I am interested in that as someone who's made a transition out. It looks like you had kids at about the same time that I did. I am interested in unpacking that. But I guess first, 16 years in the pro ranks, I did some research in regards to what technology was released in 2013 when you jumped up to the World Tour. So Shimano launches the first 11-speed cassette in 2013. On Dura-Ace, SRAM releases the first 22-speed group set, so a true 22-speed group set, as opposed to the old ones where you used to get chain rub if you shifted to the end. Anyway, disc brakes are coming onto cyclocross bikes. Aero bikes like the Propel are released. Garmin introduced Bluetooth connectivity to their head units, and the Wahoo Kicker dropped in 2013. So what I wanted to ask you is someone who's been there, and now obviously people are riding. I mean, the Factor 1 looks like a UFO compared to what you would have been riding in 2013. What do you think is the biggest innovation in the cycling space in the span of your career?
Wow. I mean, the biggest impact
Mm.
was possibly the brakes, the disc brakes. That was the biggest change, and that was also the biggest. Yeah, people were talking about that the most. I mean, you had a long time, or the transition was actually pretty bad.
Mm.
You had half of the bunch going on rim brakes, the other half of the bunch was going on disc brakes already. And these years, they're actually not good. Also, the biggest change during my career was the power meters.
Yeah.
I mean, you had power meters already a long time ago, but I don't know if teams really used it already. I remember when I became pro in 2009, that was when I got my first power meter in the juniors, in the under 23. I didn't have a power meter, and because I mean, Bjarne Ries was already using it in 1996.
Yeah, wow.
But power meters, they weren't really used that much, or not in that scientific way that we use them now. So every year, power meter got more and more important. And I remember in the first part of my career, I didn't even check my files or my watts. I was just like, yeah, that's something for my trainer to analyze. But I wasn't really interested. And now in the last years of my career, it was like really something that was the first thing I checked after the race. So the values, and after every training, and in the first half of my career, I didn't even bother to look it up. So that really changed, and all the technology that the head units can now show you, like the GPS files, so you see everything, like you have the whole map. So that's also a big change to the beginning of my career. So these two things, I guess.
Do you have, when you're doing the race, we have race marshals on there. Do you have the GPX file downloaded? Does it tell you the climbs that are coming up when you're doing races?
Yeah.
I know sometimes that's really helpful for me, and sometimes I just wish it would tell me that the climb is almost over. Is that something that you guys are doing in the peloton now, or are you still riding more on feel?
No, I had the last years, I always took the GPX file, and it was a big help. You see the climb, really, like the whole climb. You see the steeper parts, you see where it flattens out a little bit. You see the distance to the top. In the downhill, it's very important to check the map when you don't see, or you cannot see through the corner, or you know exactly how the corner, if it opens up again, or if it's a bit, if you have to brake a bit harder.
Yeah.
And also these things, because people ask me on interviews, I always got the question, how can you explain that cycling always gets faster and faster? And this is also one little detail. Like, now we can take the downhills much faster. Even in training, I got really used to it, to look at the road just on my head unit. You look up, you see, oh, there's a corner coming, and it got really instinctive that you look down to your head unit if the corner is wide or not. Or sometimes you don't see the exit of the corner, but you go through it without braking because you saw on your head unit, it opens up very quickly after the turn.
Yeah, right.
So that is a super cool thing.
Yeah.
Technology really helps, and No, it's really interesting. Even in the car, sometimes I'm like, oh, I would like to see the road now.
Yes.
You want to check the next corner already. Yeah.
It's an absolute game changer in the car, the GPS. I remember we had our street directories were called the Gregories, and you used to have to look up where you were going, memorize all the streets. People that are growing up now will not appreciate the challenge of trying to navigate when you were first starting out. But so what you're saying there is that in something like the Tour de France, when you get over the top of a climb, you would flick to have the map while you were descending. So you're actually watching.
I had the map for the whole race.
Really?
I just said 4 little fields on top of the map. There was time, distance to the finish, I think the watts, and the kilometers. Yeah, so I had distance to the finish, but also the kilometers I did already, because sometimes in the radio, the sports director, the DS, told us, and at kilometer 70, there's narrow bridge, or there are the Sonias with the bottles or whatever. So I wanted to see what kilometers we already did, and how many kilometers are to the finish. Yeah.
So the other thing that you brought up there that I remember the hysteria around disc brakes entering the peloton. There was the concern that they were going to be spinning razor blades, or I can't remember what exactly circular saw blades in the peloton. They were going to cut limbs off. But there was a really slow pickup where I think it was around when you first started in 2013 in the pro ranks that the first team started adopting or flirting with the use of disc brakes. And then it wasn't until sort of 2016, 2017 that everyone jumps onto them, I think. You mentioned that was a really, I guess how we would say in Australia, a sketchy time. What was it as bad as people were suggesting it was in the media? Especially, I think the concern was in descents. What was it like in descent when everyone was on mixed tech there?
That was really shit, to be direct. I remember one World Championships I did. That was terrible. I was back then I was in Team CCC, and we were one of the last teams that used rim brakes.
Right.
And it was the World Championships in Great Britain, Harrogate, the one that Mats Pedersen won in 2019. So it was raining, and there was one very technical descent, narrow bridge, and then straight into one of the climbs, like 1 or 2 kilometer climb. And just before that very important descent, there was like a 180-degree corner, so you had to brake very hard, and I had to brake so much earlier than the rest of the bunch.
Yeah.
That I always lost like 50 positions because I had to brake already, and guys were flying past me and braking like 10 meters before the corner.
Yeah.
And because it was raining so much, that was I mean, I would have liked to be in the final, but it was impossible because I lost every lap. I lost positions, and I was in a bad position, and the bunch stretched out, and I spent so much energy there to get back to the front again, and I did that for 2 or 3 laps, and I was out of the race.
Was there talk?
So yeah, that was really a game changer, especially when it rained. It was rim brakes are great when it's dry. They brake good enough for sure. Especially I was always a light rider, like 62 kilos.
Yeah.
For the heavy guys, it might be a bit different. But in the rain, there was such a big difference. And the technique behind the rim brakes is just better. It makes more sense to use rim brakes, I would say. But it also makes few things harder. The bikes got heavier again. The maintenance is different. And so I'm not against rim brakes. Like, I know a lot of guys that are happy with rim brakes still. But in races, it's better to have one or the other. And I would say now that the industry was clear at one point that the industry wants to push disc brakes, I think you cannot buy a new bike with rim brakes anymore. It's just not possible.
Yeah.
And so it was clear. And then, you have to have the whole bunch racing on rim brakes or on disc brakes. The transition was terrible. And but yeah, no one is talking about the danger of disc brakes anymore. I think that was pretty stupid. I mean, I remember the first time I had a bike with disc brakes, and the first thing I did while I was riding, I was touching with my finger the edge of the rim.
Really?
And the disc.
Disc, yeah.
To see if it's really that dangerous or a sharp edge, and there was nothing. And I was doing like 30, 35 kilometers an hour, and I just put my hand on the disc and nothing happened. So the whole discussion about slicing legs and slicing shoes, I think there was one picture where you saw a shoe,
Right.
and then later you could see that the rider that crashed hit the fence with his shoe. So it was all a bit people panicked, but I think if you look at a chain ring, that's much more dangerous.
Yeah. And I doing my own mechanics, I've certainly injured my hand when I'm trying to undo a pedal and I end up slamming my fist into a chain ring. So yeah, absolutely. So with CCC, were the riders petitioning? Did you have any say about the transition? If you were one of the last teams, you must have known that you were riding on inferior technology there.
We didn't really have a saying. You're a bit. You depend on your sponsors. And the year after, we started using disc brakes also. But I remember it was us and Team Sky at the time, or now Ineos. It was still on rim brakes. And I don't really know the riders. I was never asked, but I was also not the best guy in the team. So I don't know if this sponsor had a say in that, or I mean, teams also saw that it's easier to have a lighter bike with rim brakes.
Yeah.
So maybe that played a role. And I think also in the beginning, some teams said, okay, we ride the mountain stages still on rim brakes. But now everyone is on disc brakes, and I think that's better.
It's funny. It was such a concern, but I remember at the same time that everyone was worried about disc brakes making bikes heavier, you were seeing that riders were putting weights on their bikes to try and get them over the UCI limit. So there was this discourse about them being too heavy, but then also some riders' bikes, especially the smaller riders, I can't remember the rider, but I remember there being weights added to the frame to try and get it over the limit.
I had a bike with weights.
Yeah.
And it was with disc brakes in CCC. The year after, we had it was a giant TCR. So that was obviously a very light bike with disc brakes. It was just 6.8. So they put like 50 grams on it because they were a bit afraid if there is a control and, the scale is not, they were afraid that it was below. So they made it 6.85.
Wow.
And I was okay with that. But that was not an aero bike. Now the bikes get also heavier because aerodynamics are getting more and more important. And so the true lightweight bike, you don't really see it anymore. All the bikes are more and more the aerodynamics.
Yeah.
And those bikes are mostly between 7 and 8 kilos. Yeah.
Yeah. So you were Cofidis at the end. Were they on Look when you retired?
When I joined the team, we had the Rosa bikes, and the year after, the last 2 years, we were on Look bikes. Yeah.
Yeah. So with the Looks, they obviously a super bike. I've always wanted a Look ever since I think about 2013 when you first started. They had one with a really, really cool paint job. What did you notice a difference in the bikes? How great was the difference in the bikes in racing? You're talking about people in descents having the route up on their head unit, but a lot of the conversation about why things are getting faster is because of these aero bikes. Is that something that you definitely noticed?
Yeah, sure. Like that year when I was on a giant TCR, it was a super light bike.
Yeah.
But I felt in the tour that when the bunch was really strung out and that I had a disadvantage, especially the fast on the flat and on slide downhills, I was in the line in the bunch, and I had to pedal, and I saw guys on aero bikes still not pedaling, just freewheeling.
Yeah.
And that was something where I thought, oh, yeah, when it gets fast, like let's say above 40 kilometers an hour, or even faster. I mean, in the Tour, we sometimes also go 50, 60.
Mm.
And then it really plays a big role. And Giant always had the two models, the Propel and the TCR. So that was cool. But in the beginning, the first 2 years with Cofidis, we only had that one. The Rosa also had an aero bike, but only the sprinters got one, I think.
Right.
And then on the Rosa, that was also not very aerodynamic. And I felt that.
Yeah.
On uphill, it was good. And for me, that was also where I had my quality. So for me, always the mountain stages were the most important.
Yeah.
But aerodynamic-wise, that was not... Yeah, in that regard, it was not a good bike. So, yeah, that was... you feel the difference for sure.
Yeah, I've never been lucky to test out one of those super bikes, but with with your aerodynamics, then I've got to ask about the beard. So aerodynamics starts playing such a part. We shave every part of our body as cyclists to try and cut down on aerodynamic drag, and then you are on the front of the peloton rocking a full beard. Was there ever any pressure from the team? Just could you shave it? What's the rationale behind that?
Yeah. No, actually, there was a test like 10 years ago, or even maybe even longer, like 10 or 12 years ago. I think there was a wind tunnel test, beard, no beard, and it almost made no difference. So
Really?
that's when I thought, yeah, I might as well keep it there. So that's really that's interesting actually.
Yeah.
Because the beard, it doesn't have a big influence actually. Yeah.
I wonder
whether more the biggest impact is your position on the bike, and how you hold your head and so on. So that makes the most difference, I guess. Yeah.
I wonder whether you could even grow your beard long enough and sort of point it at the front so it sort of slipstreams back, and then it could cover your neck and cut down some of that CDA. I reckon you could. I reckon there could be a test there, styling a beard so that it is more aerodynamic. You know how like triathletes put sections.
Thought of that, yeah.
Yeah, like triathletes putting sections on their bike that you're not allowed with the UCI to cut down on those gaps. I guess maybe there's something to it. Tadej Pogacar,
or put it in your jersey. So you have, there was the discussion about camelbacks.
Yep.
On your chest. That is an aerodynamic advantage, actually.
Yeah.
This is why also riders put their radio in TTs
on their
on the chest and not in their back. Yeah. So that's something to think about. I don't know what the UCI would say about it.
Full beard.
Yeah.
Scary.
The advantage. I don't know if Tadej can grow a real beard.
He doesn't look like he can, does he? Okay, so one other thing that I wanted to ask you about, it's a bit of a, I guess, you're bucking the trend again here. You became a vegan in 2016. Did the team ever come to you there and say, look, mate, what are you doing? No eggs, no meat, no chicken. They're the sort of the ways that we get the protein. I think even pasta's got egg in it, does it not? So no pasta?
No, pasta is usually without eggs. There are some pasta that has eggs in it, but most of them doesn't. So pasta was still good.
Okay.
So the carbs are the easiest way. You have bread, pasta, rice, everything.
Yep.
And mostly it's about carbs. Proteins are also not so hard to get, actually. You have beans, you have lentils. I ate a lot of tofu during the Grand Tours. And that's it. And you don't need that much protein, actually. It's good for the recovery, of course. But compared to carbs, it's not that you need a plate full of protein.
Yeah.
It's it's relatively small amounts of protein you have, and you have now a lot of vegan protein shakes
Mhm.
from SIS, and actually almost everyone has protein powder. So that was actually okay. And the teams I rode for, so yeah, during my time as a vegan, I rode for 3 different teams. They were all okay with it. I mean, I had questions, of course,
Mm.
if I don't think it was funny. Always when I was good, no one doubted it, but when I was
Yep.
not so good, there was no, maybe.
Yeah, totally.
I heard you got sick. You think it's because of your diet? And I was like, no, I got sick when I was eating meat
Yeah.
as well. So I think it's not that. And also, as a athlete, you get monitored all the time. You get your blood samples taken. You see all the values,
Mm.
not just with the doping controls, but also all over the year. You have to get your blood values, and so yeah, that was actually quite easy to see if it has an impact. And when I started it, I was not 100% sure if I want to continue.
Yep.
But then my blood values just stayed the same, and my power and everything and my recovery stayed the same. So I didn't see a reason to not do it,
What?
actually. And yeah, I had a lot of great results as a rider,
Yeah.
as a vegan. So yeah, I just never saw a reason to go back. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's an understatement. But what led to this change? Was it an ethical decision? Was it a decision that you made for health? What made you decide you were going to make what is, especially as a professional cyclist, not just a drastic change, but probably quite a brave change at the time?
Yeah, it was. And it was not overnight. It was a transition phase. Also in 2016, I made some exceptions still to maybe 2017, 18 also, but super, super little.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually, before I never really cared about it, but I had knee problems in the winter between 2015 and 16, and they kept coming back, and I always thought it was inflammation. So I just checked if I can do anything with food, to get my inflammation levels down.
Mm.
And the first thing I saw was, okay, the worst for inflammation values in your body is dairy products, but also meat. So yeah, I thought like, okay, that's interesting. So after all the time, I did my research about that, and then you get from one study to another, and then of course you also see what they do to the animals,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
was the last thing. I was like, oof. I mean, for almost 30 years, I really enjoyed eating meat, and the only positive thing I can say about meat now is that I do admit it tastes good, but all the other things that come with it, ethically and also for the environment, it's just super bad. And
Mm.
so yeah, I wanted to stop immediately, actually, and then it was actually quite easy. And yeah, together with the dietitians of the team, it was quite easy. And as a cyclist, when you're on a big team in the big races, you always have a chef with you.
Mm-hmm.
That makes it easier. So and at home it was easy anyway because I can shop myself.
Yeah, of
And
course.
the worst parts were the travel days
Yeah.
at airports or train stations. Sometimes you had really nothing, and then sometimes it was hard. But yeah, you have to organize yourself, and you get more and more organized, and you have more experience, and then it was quite easy.
Yeah, so I was when I was first getting into cycling, I was vegetarian. Again, similar, I did it for the health benefits first, and then the ethical benefits really come in. What I found difficult was when I entered a relationship, I found it difficult having to cook 2 separate meals, and my partner at the time didn't buy into it. How do you go now that you're at home, I guess? Is your partner, she vegan? Are your kids, or kid? I'm not.
Mhm. My wife, she is, I would say, flexitarian. She's not. We don't cook 2 separate meals.
Yep.
She respects it and she likes it as well. She's not a big fan of meat, to be honest. Sometimes when she's from Austria, when she's at her parents, she eats sometimes she eats a schnitzel, you know what it is, like sort of steak.
Yeah.
But that's it. And she likes to eat cheese now and then. With our daughter now, I mean, she's 1 year old. We don't force her to eat meat, but she can eat what she wants. We already had we try around a little bit. She's not getting raised 100% vegan.
Yep.
But I don't want to paint a picture for her that meat grows on trees. I will, once she is old enough, I will tell her straight away, you know, this used to be a pig, this used to be a cow, and it used to be an animal that had to die for your sandwich now. I will explain it to her quite quick, and then we will see if she still wants to eat it.
It's an
I mean,
interesting...
I will not keep it from her, the truth, for a long time. I can say that.
It's an interesting phase. So mine are 3, and we've moved into a house where there are quite a few insects, and my wife hates cockroaches. So they've started saying things like, oh, you know, you need to kill that, and trying to teach the concept of death and what it means to kill something is a real challenge for someone that is that young and doesn't have an understanding.
Yeah. For me, the worst part would be if my daughter is invited to a birthday party as a, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 year old, and she doesn't have to be the kid that says, I don't want to have the cake because there's an egg in it.
Yeah.
This is something I don't want. But yeah, I will explain to her when she's old enough. Say when she's, I don't know, in preschool age, I will explain where the food comes from and not keep that truth from her. And then, you know, this is why I never, for me, it was always normal to eat dead animals. But actually, now I think about it like, yeah, why did I never ask? Why are humans doing this?
Yeah.
And it is weird now. Yeah. If I would eat meat now, I mean, if I have to survive, I don't know, if I was stranded on an island or something, of course I would eat meat, but I could not enjoy it. This is the easy part now. Once you saw where it's coming from, I don't really have that,
no, I understand
the big wish
that.
to eat meat anymore.
You really have to disassociate yourself with the process in order to be able to...
It feels like eating my dog. You know, we have a dog. I always say, when I look at him, I don't see food. And this is how I see all animals now.
Yeah, fair.
And people would never eat their dogs.
No.
I mean, most people would. Yeah. No. Or eating another person, you know.
No, you're right.
People would be disgusted. And this is the same way of thinking now for all animals.
I'm glad it's something that you've been able to maintain, because I do think it is noble. So I guess moving on to the next thing then, with your final years at Cofidis. So they were a World Tour team when you were finishing up with them, but they've now moved to a Conti team. And a big narrative this year has been around wildcard entries. So you started off in a Conti team with Argus Shimano, and then at the end you left Cofidis just before they dropped out of the World Tour. What was it like being on a team that was fighting for those World Tour spots? Was there pressure to come up with the results, or was it something that, you know, you could choose the races that you selected to go to, and that provided some freedom?
Well, the first part of my career, it was very different. I came to a small team, and we were not really focused on becoming World Tour team. We had the wild cards we wanted. In my first year in 2009, we were already going to the Tour de France. We did Paris-Nice and, you know, Liège, Bastogne-Liège, Paris-Roubaix, like all the big races. And the team always said, we don't have to do 3 Grand Tours. We don't have the riders for it. It's fine to do, you know, like my first year I did the Tour, then 2 years later I did the Vuelta. We always had a Grand Tour. We always had the big classics. And that was the most important. And then we didn't really care about the World Tour license. The last years in Cofidis, that was much different.
Yeah.
There it got a bit annoying, and I think also over the years they changed the point system all the time. So that was actually quite stressful. All the riders wanted to stay in the World Tour, but sometimes you have weeks, months where the results are not there, and we always felt the pressure from the team. The team had the pressure from the sponsors, or from the sponsor in that case. The team manager gave the pressure to the sports directors. They knew, okay, they had to put the pressure on the riders also. So that was a bit annoying. And then it was sad for the sport because the small races got more important than the big races, Sometimes we had to send really the Tour de France team to a French Cup race, which are nice races. But before I went to Cofidis, some of these races I haven't even heard before.
Yeah.
So and there we had to perform because there we knew. I mean, it was smart, of course. There we had the chance to score more points than when we went to Liège-Bastogne-Liège. The goal was always to put someone in top 20 or top 10, but most of the time it didn't happen. So sometimes in the big races we had to settle with the first guy being on place 30 or 35. So there we almost didn't score points, and that was a problem, of course. So the small races got more important, but then the whole, for me, that didn't feel right. The goal should always be the big race. And also the end of 22, I was really not good anymore. I had a big season, and then in the end, I had a lot of points, and then the system was like that year still, that only the first 10 riders of a team that had the most points, they were counting. Right. So if you had a guy, let's say, who was injured in spring, or he was just sick or whatever, and he didn't have any points, so in the end, his points didn't count. So at the end of the season, we had guys that were in good shape, but then we had to, the final, it was always, the plan was then always to go for the guys that already had points. Because if you had a rider that didn't score points before, his points are useless. Yeah. He's not in the top 10 of the riders. It was a complicated system. Right. So then, at the end of the season, races in Italy, super hard races, the team said, Simon, we go for you and Guillaume. I was like, I'm really not good. We have guys that are much better. Let's go for them. Yeah, but they didn't score points earlier, and then the points don't count. So we have to try to get you in the final. And I was like, I don't feel like I'm able to.
Yeah, right. So you've got teams basically.
So that was a bit sad.
So you've got teams manufacturing a scenario where you end up higher up, not because you're the best rider to win that race, but rather because you're the rider with points.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that. And in small races, then we started taking 2 sprinters. So the goal was not to win the race. The goal was to become 6th and 8th.
Yeah.
Then in the end, you have more points than winning the race.
Well, that was Astana last year.
And they played and that was taking away. This is not why you started cycling. You always want to win races. And of course, if you don't win the race yourself, then you try to help your captain or your sprinter, and you do it as good as possible. And if he wins, then this is nice also. So it was a bit tough then, racing only for points.
Yeah.
That was not so nice. But it was part of the sport, and it was not the fault of Cofidis.
No.
It's a problem within the system that the UCI, they only give the licenses for 2 years, and for the sponsors, that's hard, like this year, Cofidis is not in the Giro, and Down Under, I would be upset as a rider to not go to Down Under. It was always a nice race to do. So riding for a team that doesn't have the automatic right to go to these races is always a bit worse. But in the end, if you have a good program, you don't need to do all the World Tour races because there are so many.
Yeah.
And sometimes for especially for the French teams, It's hard to do all the World Tour races because they also have to do all the French Cup races. All the French World Tour teams have to go to the French Cup races, and sometimes this was also quite difficult because then we had to put three good teams,
Yeah.
and this is not so easy. If you have only 30 riders, you have to have 3 times
Yeah, well, there's
7, let's say.
21
It's
21 riders.
21
Yep.
riders already, good riders to go to the races, because also the French Cup races, they are not easy to win.
Mm.
They are not they are 0.1 races, so the level is not that high, but to get a top 10 or win is also not easy. It's easier to get a top 20 there than in a World Tour race, but top 20 doesn't give you enough points. So yeah, that was always. And then you have the Vuelta. At the same time, you have that Bing Bang Tour or whatever the name is now, and some French Cup races. So you always had to find ways. Also with the vehicles, you have to have 3 buses and all that. So
Yeah.
I think for Cofidis now, the step back is not bad. I mean, they also changed the management now, and it could be a fresh start, and they will still be in the Tour de France. And yeah, I think for them it's okay.
Yeah. And did that, I mean, you talk about that being, I guess, sucking some of the fun out of it. Was that contributing to some of the reason behind your retirement? I mean, it's not like you were retiring as a young buck at 27 years old. You'd had a pretty good run, but did that change in the way that Cofidis was going about the racing? Did that contribute to your decision to hang the bike up in 20?
No, not at all. I was sure when I signed for Cofidis that this would be my team till the end.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I mean, when I signed for the team, I was already 34, so I knew, okay, this is it now. I'm not trying to change teams anymore, because I knew also teams wouldn't want me anymore.
Yeah.
I had when I signed for Cofidis, it was already hard because every team said, "Oh, with 34, you're actually too old for us." And then I still had 4 good years, I would say. So I was pretty happy. But that the way Cofidis was riding for me, that didn't have an impact. I had my own plan, and I retired with 38, which is already super old in modern cycling days now. And the reason then was also that my wife got pregnant in 24. So yeah, but the decision was already made before. I had my contract ended in 24, and then after the Giro, the team manager opened the door to negotiate another year, but I straight away said no, because then I knew my wife was already pregnant, and also, after 16 years, you're not as motivated anymore as with 23. And yeah, I wanted to stop with a good season, and till then I had a very good season, so I was really fine with retiring in 24.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things that I often admire, I've got Jay Vine comes out to the Tour Down Under this year, and he wins the Tour Down Under, and Bree, his wife, is traveling around with a young kid. I think you dodged a bullet. I think that must be so tough as a professional cyclist to have to manage a family life as well. How have you found the transition to being a dad and to living without cycling? I mean, you look pretty damn fit. Certainly hasn't left you. But how have you found that? Is it something that is bringing a lot of rewards, I guess?
I'm still in the middle of transitioning, actually.
Yeah.
Sometimes I forget that I'm not a pro cyclist anymore. So it is, it's difficult, actually. For me, it is. So for now, for me, or for us, it would have been impossible to get a child with me still riding, because my wife has her own life. She's not the kind of woman that travels around at races, and she also works, and we don't have parents living close to us to take care of the baby. And for us, there was never an option. And also for me personally, because when you are a rider and you are spending so much time at the races, and in between races you are in training camps, and you come home from a race, you want to relax and all that. Yeah, I see it now with our baby. It was born a few weeks after I had my last race, so the timing was quite good. And but yeah, I the whole winter I had no idea how I would have done it if I would have done another year in pro cycling, like with training and everything. And the first months, you don't sleep that good, and the days are just 10 hours are passing so quickly because you have to do so much things. So yeah, then having training in between and recovery, it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
Like we would have needed some assistance, then a nanny or something. But the transition otherwise is good. But yeah, like the whole life, you had people taking care of you, organizing everything. You have an agent, you have your team that you can always ask for assistance if you need anything. So now it's different. You have a live way to organize everything yourself, and But yeah, I'm finding my way. Yeah, I want to stay a little bit in cycling. I have a small job now, in the region
I
here
was
in
going to ask,
the area.
what's Simon Geschke doing after retirement? Like, what does that look
Yeah.
like? Are you going back into cycling?
Maybe. I mean, last year I was working for TV a little
Mhm.
bit. I was at the Giro, I was at the Tour, so that was really nice. I want to stay connected to cycling, but in a smaller role. I haven't figured out anything yet, so that's actually a problem. I don't really know after cycling what to do. I have a lot of small things actually that are going. Some things are going well, others not so well. But I still try to figure out what I like, what I don't like. After the first year 0 after pro cycling, I did a lot, like some camps as a guide. Then I did TV work as an expert. I have here in the city where I live, I invested into a hotel where we have altitude rooms, so you can put the whole room on
Yeah, wow.
altitude. So this is really nice. It's something that's fun. And now from this year on, I am responsible for the under 17 riders of that region. So I did a trainer license. So yeah, but this is just a very small job. This is nothing I do full time, but it's nice to give a bit back for the young generation. And there also the support is not so good in Germany, so they need good people, and I'm happy to do that. So yeah, I'm staying a bit busy, and when I have time, I'm also riding my bike still. So this is nice. But yeah, I haven't figured out completely what I want to do.
Riding the bike.
Not as a full-time job.
Riding the bike gets harder.
But at the moment,
it gets a lot harder. I thought it would get easier as they got older, but it gets harder to find that time.
But I'm still at that level where it comes back quite quickly when I ride my bike. Yeah, a few days in a row, I feel okay. Now I'm fit again. But I feel also if I like in the winter, the weather in Germany is not the best. So yeah, I didn't do much, and I was pretty shit in spring now. Like when the first time I was also sick in end of January, and I was like, this is a tough sport. I didn't feel it the last years as a pro, because when you train every day, riding fast is very easy actually, and now it's different.
I feel you. I've had a pretty rough summer over here with getting sick and just distractions. And I went on a bike ride recently in a new area, and I went down this hill that I'd sighted, and it looked like a really good climb up, like a really hard one. And I got down to the bottom of it, and I turned around, and as I was going down, my Garmin read 20%. And I turned around and I looked back up from the bottom, and I thought, I actually don't know whether I have the fitness to get up this hill. And I genuinely thought I was going to have to walk. So I managed to get up, but yeah, I 100% feel you. It does go, but I've been told it comes back. I'm waiting for it to, but I've been told it comes back as well. Something that some people, in retirement, sitting on your porch, in your rocking chair, just thinking back. One thing that must always come up, though, is stage 17 of the 2015 Tour de France. So setting the situation, Froome is over 3 minutes ahead of Quintana. I think it's 3 minutes and 10 seconds at this point, but a spot on the podium is in play for all of the big dogs. It's a hard day, so there's 161 Ks, 2 Cat 2s and a Cat 1 up Col d'Alos, and you attacked solo. What is the plan here? Because I'm looking at that situation and I'm thinking everyone is going to want to follow you. It's going to be hard to get into a breakaway, but I guess once you're in a breakaway, Sky's going to shut down everything else trying to chase you. So was that the mindset? Like, this is a day to get away?
Yeah, that was not the master plan in the morning in the bus. In the third week of the tour, you always have to. You can make decisions, or many decisions you can't make in the bus. You have to see how big is the breakaway. Nowadays, sometimes there's no breakaway in these short stages. And we were just allowed to go on the breakaway, but we also had Warren Barguil, who was around top 10 in GC. So I remember I asked him if I'm allowed to go because we had already one guy in the front. It was a big breakaway, but he was not the best climber. It was John Degenkolb. So on a tough stage like that was not really for the stage result. That was not really the best card to play. So, but I was the last guy with Warren. The bunch was already pretty small. It was a tough start also. He said, yeah, go. And so I was one of the last guys that bridged. And so that was nice. I ended up in the breakaway, but it was not the plan in the beginning. It was more like, we see what happens. And if there's a big breakaway, of course, you want to have somebody there. And and then a long time we were hovering with around like 2-3 minutes. So the bunch didn't give us really a lot of time, or enough
rope
time,
to hang
actually.
yourself,
And so with 3 minutes, if the big guys start playing, it's not enough, actually. There was a really tough final with 2 tough climbs. And so I had a good result 2 days before. I was 4th in, I think, Pau. The stage before. And so I was like, I'll try something special.
Yeah. But then
it was and I knew also from my experience, I was already then quite old with enough experience to know after that there was an intermediate sprint, and after that you always have some guys sprinting, and then after that they sit up, they have a drink, they eat something. That is a good moment to try something. And so after that intermediate sprint, I was like, okay, I'll try to get away with a couple of guys, because we also had riders like Richie Port in that break, Thibaut Pinot.
Well, I was having a look.
Andrew
I think it's
Talansky.
Rigoberto Urán. You've got Talansky, Pinot, Port. So you've got some.
Steven Krauswijk was back then a really strong rider, still is. But those guys, and I knew, if it's head to head, then I'm not the strongest climber in that breakaway. I was pretty sure about that. So I wanted to get away with a couple of guys, and I ended up being alone because in that valley there was also tailwind. This is something you don't see on TV, but there was tailwind, so it was fast. And if everyone sits up and you get away, you have the tailwind as your advantage, so that you are faster. And then behind you, they cannot go that much faster. And then I had a super good day, obviously. So I got away, and I just did my thing on threshold. And behind, they were surprised, and I was back then also not. I didn't win big races till then, so everyone was looking more at Richie Port and Pinot and these guys and Urán. So it was quite easy, and no one followed me. Everyone thought, it's too early and still 50K, so they were all waiting, but that was it. And then I had 2.5 minutes before going into that long climb, Col de Lalos. And that was just enough to defend. So I lost, I think, 2 minutes on that climb, but I still had a small advantage. And then I had roughly 1 minute on top of the Alos. And I knew 1 minute behind me is Thibaut Pinot, and he's He's a shitty
Yeah, well, he
sender, so
was, wasn't he? Yeah.
he was, and bad luck for him. He crashed. It was in that moment good for
Yep.
me. But already before I took some time back on him in the descent, but then he also crashed.
Yeah. It was a nasty
So
one
yeah,
too.
and then at the bottom, and then there was only 6K left uphill. Only I mean I had cramps and I was really empty, but it was just enough, and I could save 30 minutes on the
Yeah.
finish. Yeah, so that was actually, I was surprised with myself that I had a really good plan.
So
And yeah, but it was a big risk. I mean, I could have hang on or stay in the breakaway to end up with the top
yeah.
10 result. Or yeah, but that day I really wanted to try it and win the stage, and got really rewarded. That was nice.
I guess so. When I was talking to Victor Campenaerts, he said, no one cares how many stages of the Tour de France you win. You know, no one can tell you how many X rider has won, but winning one is what puts you in an elite group. So there's a difference between 0 and 1, but there's not a big difference between 1 and 2 or 1 and 7. So what does that do for you as a rider when you win a Tour de France stage? What's that like? What's the, I guess, at the end, is there this riding on a cloud, or does it end up being a bit more anticlimactic to an extent, because tomorrow you just have to get on the bike and go again? What is that like?
Well, I really didn't think about tomorrow. That day I really was like, when I was at the finish, if someone offered me a flight home to party, I would have taken it. No, I really didn't care about the rest of the tour then. It's such a breakthrough moment. And yeah, what Campenaerts said is right. It really puts you on the map. You know, you can be a good rider before people know you. Other riders, you get respected in the bunch. But when you win a stage in the tour, it's just, there is no race where it's harder to win a stage than the Tour de France. I think that's something everyone would agree on, because the level is just the highest. Every team sends their 8 best riders. And yeah, when you win a stage there, that's just, for me, it really felt unreal. Yeah, but you also, in the tour, usually you don't have lucky winners. You know, sometimes luck is a bit more on your side, or it doesn't. With bad luck, you also don't win stages, obviously. But it's not, if you win in the tour, that's not a coincidence. And also, when you're not on 100% shape tactically, you also don't win stages. It's just super hard. And there's also everyone goes to the tour with a dream to win a stage, and this is, there's no one that sees the tour as a preparation race like what you have sometimes in the spring. You know, you take Paris-Nice. Yeah, I'm here to prepare for the classics, or in the Vuelta, guys prepare for the World
or even the
Championships,
Giro,
or
as
or they are just back to the Swiss. I'm just back from injury, or this is just, I'm doing this after the Giro. I'm actually quite tired, and after that I have in the tour, everyone goes there on top of their game, and they are there to win, or at least to do their best for their teammates. And then this is for no one coincidence that they are there. So that makes it so hard to win a stage.
But it must also give you such a boost in confidence. I mean, you back yourself your entire career, I'd imagine, but to be able to stand back and say, I beat all those guys, and they were, every single person in that race was incredibly strong. The people that were chasing after you were incredibly strong. And to be able to sit there at the end of the day and say, I conquered that must be something that, even though you said you were an older rider at the time, must give you a big boost in. Yeah.
Well, I was in my prime. I was 29 back then. Those were my strongest years, 14, 15, I would say. There I really had, sometimes really the best shape I can remember looking back now. And but it was just, the day of my life, and something I'm always happily looking back to. And if I could, I would relive this day over and over again. If I would have a time machine, I would always go back to that day.
Well,
as a cyclist in my private life, I had also some nice moments, but in my cycling life, there's nothing comes close to that day.
Well, it's not the only day. I guess the next question I was going to ask you has kind of been, I guess, overshadowed by your response there. But you've got another two, I guess, big moments in your cycling career. So one is when you win the Giro d'Italia with Dumoulin.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other would be, I think, was it 9 days in the polka dot jersey in 2022? How would you rank these? So as a team winning a Grand Tour, as a rider winning a Tour de France stage, or as a rider being in the polka dot jersey in the Tour de France, where would you put those three on a tier list looking back on your career?
Yeah, the polka dot jersey is by far the last.
Yeah.
I would rank different results much higher than that because it was a very good performance, but it feels like such a big loss. When I think about it now, it feels negative. I feel sad when I think about it because I lost it in the end by a very small margin. So it doesn't feel like a victory or something nice. When I think back at winning the Giro with Tom, that feels like a victory, or even my some World Tour results I had in the Amstel Gold Race. I was 6th, Flash Wallon 10th. Those are results I'm really proud of because I knew from my level I could not win these races, but I'm very proud of these performances there. Also, I was on the podium in Down Under and in Romandie World Tour races, which I'm really proud of. And I knew, okay, this was always the maximum, and I had a really good week there. But the polka dot jersey for me, for a long time, I didn't want to see the jersey. It was under my bed. Now I have it in my basement. I getting along with it a bit better now. We're getting friends after 4 years almost. Yeah. But it doesn't feel nice looking back at it. I feel like I lost a big opportunity because it came down to the last. I mean, Vingegaard he was not really fighting for it. So yeah, I should have won it, and this feels very bitter, actually. Yeah.
If you saw Vingegaard, he was walking down the street, you were crossing paths, would you drop a shoulder into him for taking it off you? It's a bit of a dog move, really.
No, not like that. I'm not angry. I'm more angry at myself and the mistakes we made on the last mountain stage. Yeah. Everyone was a bit too nervous, me included. Looking back now, also the whole tour, we could have done things differently. But yeah, losing the jersey by just 8 points, that's nothing. That 8 points was really nothing. On the HC climb, you get 20. I would have been enough to cross the Col d'Aspin, I think it was the last mountain stage. Being third on top there would have been enough. Yeah. So, and there were only 3 guys sprinting. So, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, a few mistakes were made, and looking back now, it was just such a big opportunity. I'm still not friends with the jersey now. Yeah.
Well, I am sorry to have brought it up, but look, what aside from the Tour de France, what is your biggest takeaway, I guess, from your pro cycling career? As we wrap up the interview, what do you sit back, like, aside from winning that stage, is there something that you are most proud of, or a lesson that you've taken away that you apply to your life? What is it that you feel like you're really walking away from in your retirement, or walking away with, rather?
Wow, tough question. Yeah, I mean, there are so many memories from the last 16 years. Boy, it's really hard to put it into one thing I take away. I mean, I'm always thankful that I had 16 years in pro cycling. I don't take that for granted. Some riders have to stop earlier. I'm always really thankful I haven't had the worst crashes. I crashed a lot also, but I I don't have any problems with a broken hip still, or something that I'm still recovering from. So yeah, mainly it's just walking away from pro cycling. Yeah, I think it taught me a lot about the life after cycling now as well. I mean, it is a team sport, so you have to comply to certain rules. You have to be. You always have. For me as a rider, there were always people that I had to work for. So yeah, it is like a big. I always compare it to the normal work life. Also, it is like a big office. You have a boss and you have certain riders that are already in the company longer, and everyone has a certain job. But in the end, it's about the big result, the one result. And cycling in that aspect is a very strange sport because it is a team sport, but only one rider can win. And but yeah, success is not measured only by victories for me. It cannot be. Like for us, when I look my last years at Cofidis, sometimes a podium result or top 10 was already like, wow, this is something that we are really proud of compared to other teams that only get measured by victories, like Visma or UAE as the perfect examples. But yeah, so sometimes you have to be thankful also for the small results and see the bigger picture. And if you always give your best, then yeah, good things will follow. And then this was everything I did in the last 16 years of my career. And then sometimes it worked out really good, and sometimes you end up second with a polka dot jersey you don't want to see.
Yeah, hide under your bed. Well,
or you don't want to wear.
Yeah. Congratulations on a stellar career. Thank you so much for coming on the pod. It's been really fun. I guess I would end with one question, and that is, who wins Paris-Roubaix this year? Is it Van der Poel, Pogačar, or do you think someone else comes away with it?
Wow. Seeing Van der Poel in Omloop last Saturday, hard to imagine that anyone else can beat him. But my heart says Pogačar, to be honest. When you can, at your debut, your first appearance in Roubaix, you finish second, I think you can win it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's the hard thing about this part in the season.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing because we've seen Van der Poel all through the cyclocross season, and then we've also seen him at Omloop, but we haven't seen Tadej Pogačar at all. So I think Strade Bianca is his first
my
one.
heart says Pogačar.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine that he drops Van der Poel on the cobbles, but I will go with Pogačar.
Yeah, well, let's see, eh? Anyway, thank you very much. And yeah, appreciate your time. It's been great.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
All right. So really, really fun interview. I just always a bit of a trip sitting across from someone who you've watched on TV racing something like the Tour de France. It is a really special experience for me. So thank you to Simon. Thank you to you guys for listening. And again, if you can give it a thumbs up or a like or whatever, share it with your mates. And if you're on YouTube, there's this thing called hype. And apparently YouTube cares about that, although really, I don't know what YouTube cares about. So yeah, if you could slap that, that would be really cool. But yeah, thank you very much. We'll see you next week.